So just wait to tell us that we're all live. Max McGillivray, Beanstalk Global, with Isaac from AHDB. We've got Flav, who will explain the amazing Flav and his story in a minute. We're just waiting for all the social media to kick in. Holidays. So Isaac, you had a great holiday?
I've just spent 3 weeks in Spain, and I definitely think they've got it right. So, getting up late and late breakfast, do something, and late lunch, late big lunches, bit of siesta, and then get up and do something in the evening. Yeah, I definitely think I'm part Spaniard somewhere.
Sorry, Isaac. Kudos to Isaac, everyone, because he didn't just get on a monosyllabic plane. He drove was it to the bottom of Spain with on family with all your bikes and all your gear. And went exploring. So you had a great time. Flav, have you had a holiday yet?
Yes, I was in Kenya in June, where I proposed to my girlfriend. So that was pretty good.
What?
And
hold on, back up the bus. Just you went to Kenya in June, and you saw some great things, and you went for some nice meals. And by the way, I proposed to my girlfriend. Wow.
I think you should now call her your fiance, Flav.
Yeah.
Well, as I was saying the story, it was girlfriend and it's fiance now.
Excellent. And she said yes.
Yeah. Like we were on the Mara River with a couple of crocodiles on one side and about 50 odd hippos on the other. So, and there was a guard behind us with a gun. So. I don't think there was another option.
Good grief! This what amazing lady. Well, we get Flav. We have to give a big shout out to her. What's the name of your beautiful fiance, please?
Her name is Nikki Clark.
Oh wow, fantastic. Isaac, can you make the wedding? Have we got to buy a dress or a hat or something?
I've got my kilt, so yeah.
Okay, yeah, because I wear a kilt. We'll happily come to the wedding in Kenya, as long as there's not crocodiles with Isaac and I wearing kilts.
No, we'll be on the beach. There won't be any crocodiles.
Oh wow! Oh, that's excellent. Okay, so you've had an amazing holiday, Flav. Isaac, you've had an amazing holiday in Spain. Our partner in crime, Mark, is in Spain, and he might be dialing in a little bit later. I just wanted to say I haven't had a holiday yet, but I'm off to Somerset to work on my mate's apple farm next week, and he pays me in cider, and I can't stand cider. So if either of you two want any cider from Somerset, I'll happily pass that over.
Yeah, I'll have some of that.
Excellent. Right, shall we do this? Or shall we do this? All my lights are green. I think I'm just going to go for it, Flav. Isaac, and just give the intro, especially for those on the podcast, if that's okay. So here we go. Beanstalk Global, AHDB, Talking Leaders, our fantastic broadcast series, Breaking the Mould, with Flavian Obiero, the Kenyan pig farmer. We all know how important it is to be inspired by both big businesses and individuals, which is why we're excited to present Talking Leaders, our ongoing initiative from the fantastic team at the AHDB, which sees a series of inspirational speakers share their life experiences, their engagement stories, and to deliver impactful stories to the AgriLeader community. In our August broadcast, Hampshire pig farmer and Young National Pig Association Vice Chair Flav will be joining us to share his passion for getting people from a non-traditional background interested in agriculture. Oh, help Flav, help me with this. Flav grew up in the coastal town of, how do you pronounce that? Kilifi in Kenya, and it never crossed his mind that pig farming, especially in the UK, would become such an important part of his life. But after an accidental week's work experience, the rest, as they say, is history. Flav now has 12 years of expertise in the pig industry and is based on a pig unit near Basingstoke. He's particularly interested in marketing and adding value to pork. He's also passionate about increasing diversity in British ag. Knowing what it entails to break through in such a long and established industry, Flav is passionate about increasing diversity in British ag and believes it is a win-win for everyone. Of course it is. Flav believes building a brand to market and showcase the sector as progressive and professional is the only way to get the public on side and extract the value from the market. to achieve this, you need to be able to identify with your customer. Flav is going to hopefully tell us a little bit about that. So join with us to hear Flav's story. But before we go live with you, Flav, Isaac, do you want to just give a bit of a background to the AHDB and Talking Leaders, just for those that's who potentially haven't already dialed in to hear our broadcast series, please?
Excellent. Thanks, Max. Yes, so I'm Isaac. I'm part of the AgriLeader team at AHDB. And basically, we do all things people, leadership, management, HR, anything like that. And a big part of that is inspirational stories, like we'll have, like we'll hear today. So we've got this monthly broadcast called Talking Leaders. People from all over the, from everywhere, basically, inside and outside of agriculture, telling their stories and giving their ideas for us all to share. If you're live, please ask the questions and we'll put them to Flav. But yeah, so I'm really looking forward to it.
Excellent. And just to extol the virtues of Mark and Isaac and the AHDB team, Isaac, when was it when we were at the Great Yorkshire Show? The months are flying by. Was that June or July? And I'm still getting, and we did a bunch of amazing interviews there, and I'm still getting really positive feedback. And as good as these broadcasts are, actually to see people in person, and also to see the AHDB in person, and just to see how they interact and how they're so professional with the farmers that they're engaging with was brilliant. So the more that you can engage with the AHDB, whether it be on the likes of these type of broadcasts or face to face, as we get more and more into real life events, so the better, I say. So Isaac, we've had some amazing people on. I think this one's got to be great with Flav. Flav, I suppose the easiest thing to do to just start this off, just run with it. What's your story? Who is Flav? Tell us. How did it begin? Where is it now? Where's this all going? Where's the story of Flav going, please? Tell us about your book of Flav.
My book. Cheers for that intro. How far back do you want me to go?
Yeah. From the beginning, yeah. But no.
Okay. Yeah. So, as you've said, I grew up in a small town, or I grew a little bit now. I grew up in a small town called Kilifi, which is 50 kilometers ish north of the coastal city of Mombasa in Kenya. And yeah, I lived there for 12 years with my parents. Mum has a salon there still to now. I remember she used to work in at the local hospital as a nurse, and she also had a market stall. So I remember there's times where she'd get up at 5 a.m, go to Mombasa to buy sort of stuff to sell in the market stall, come back ready for 2 p.m. to go start our shift 2 to 8. Dad was a biomedical scientist at the same hospital, still is, and he also had a pub, which sort of every weekend, him and his mates used to slaughter a goat and meet up. I think probably for about 5 years consecutively, they never missed a Saturday session there. And with me growing up with our friends in the town, I sort of just, we had a few animals at home. We grew some veg that we sold at the market, but I didn't really have any exposure to farming per se. I'd say till, or pig farming especially, until I visited my uncle who lived in Nairobi, and he had some pigs. And I remember going around Nairobi with my auntie with their Hilux, and we had like black tarpaulin at the back, and we'd go around to hotels and cafes, taking all the leftovers, taking them back, sorting out through all the toothpicks and whatever else people had chucked in there. Wow. Putting it in an oil drum and mixing it with, I would grind up pig feed, cooking that up, and then feeding the pigs. And I've got a memory of me going back to the house, smelling of sort of pig manure and this pig sort of swill. And I just sit there in my dirty clothes and just take the smell in. And I think that's the first memory of sort of being exposed to pigs. And from then on, I just wanted to work with them.
Okay. So get that. So anyone who's ever visited Kenya could just resonate with that. Just the whole smell element and the pub element and the busyness of Kenya. And the one thing that you always find in Kenya is a smile. Everyone is constantly smiling. But then that's Kenya, and you're in Basingstoke. help us. Join the dots, please.
So I remember when I was 15, I went to boarding school, secondary school. So there, our secondary school starts from Form 1, and I'd say that's equivalent probably to Year 7, Year 8 here. And I remember I went there on the 2nd of February, and then my dad flew to the UK on the 5th to come and work here. And this was in 2005. And then about 6 months later, he came back, took me from school, and we went and got my passport done, myself, mum, and my sister. And then 2006, June 11th, we landed in Heathrow after having our flight delayed. But then the one we ended up getting on, we got upgraded to business. So that's the first time I'd flown business. So that was pretty good. Yeah, so landed here when I was 15. Had to wait a month before joining a local school called King's in Camberley. And then I did year 10 and 11 there. But because I hadn't done my SATs in this country, I was put into the 3rd set for everything, which is like the average set. Oh, and I remember every exam we did, I topped the class. So I got pushed up on all the subjects apart from English, which I stayed in set 2, which I'm glad I did because I didn't really want to do Macbeth. We ended up doing Mice and Men instead. So I didn't really complain there. And then I remember we had to do we did a careers week and sort of doing work experience. And I knew I liked animals. I remember doing work experience at a garden centre chain called Knock Knots. I don't know if it still exists. Yeah. And they had like a pet's corner. So I worked there for a week. I remember doing 6 weeks in total in a vet surgery because I wanted to be a vet. And then, so I got my grades. I think I had an A in food tech, and I still love food now. I got 8 Bs and 2 Cs. And I thought, for being in this country for 2 years as a 15-year-old sort of teenager, trying to fit into all the different social groups which didn't exist in Kenya, because I remember I had mates that didn't even have like windows in their houses. They didn't have shoes. But when you were at school, it didn't matter whether your mum was a nurse, whether your mum worked at a market store. We were all friends, and I still talk to them now. Like we've got a WhatsApp group, which I think is a class of 2003, and I left that school in 2002. Some of them I've not seen since then, and we still talk on WhatsApp now. And so coming here, I remember we had I think they call it a Red Nose Day or Mufti Day, where kids pay £1 to wear their own clothes at school. And I just stand up. I think I had my dad's Reebok Classics because I was growing quite quick, and dad didn't want to spend too much money on buying me clothes that I would outgrow in 2 or 3 months. So I had these Reebok Classics, had some of those cargo jeans which have like pockets everywhere. And I think I just had like a casual jumper on my bag. But then when I got to school, I sort of quickly realized that there were people dressed in dark clothes. They were known as emos. And then there were others known as chavs. And then there were the posh kids wearing their Abercrombie and Fitch and Ralph Lauren and all those things. And I think at that point, I sort of got a little bit confused as to how people as young as 15, 16, it's so, like the division is so clear. Like when you stood in the quad at break, you had one group stood there, they listened to sort of headbanging, shouting music. We've got another group there, like the Nepalese lads and girls used to always be separate. And the few black students used to mainly hang around with them all by themselves, but never mix. Whereas I was sort of torn in the sense that I grew up at a coastal town. My parents worked for a research company called Wellcome Trust, and a lot of the people there were English, and I was exposed to English people since I was like 4, and I had friends who were English, but also had friends that were Kenyan. And it never occurred to me that you only hang around with such and such because they're from here. Like we have 44 tribes in Kenya. So if that was the case, you'd have like 15 different cliques in a class because everyone's from a different tribe. But I never grew up with that. So I had to learn that. So going through all those sort of emotions, accent was another thing. The way I'm speaking now, if my dad was to call me or mum was to call me, I'd switch and talk like a Kenyan. Yeah. But then at school, I was still talking like a Kenyan, and then in English, having to read sort of paragraphs you get sort of people giggling because how you're pronouncing words. I hold out a stammer, which didn't help. So all those things going on, and I managed to get an A, 8 Bs and 2 Cs. I thought that wasn't too bad. Got into college. I picked chemistry, biology, maths, French for the first year, and the jump from GCSE French to A-level French was just too big for me. So I dropped it in second year and did psychology instead, and we had to do general studies. But by the end of A-levels, I hadn't worked hard enough, and I always used to leave things last minute. Took that to uni, unfortunately. Do leave revision to last minute. Like, I remember doing my maths revision the night before. I did like 6 papers back to back because I knew in a paper you'd get a question from each topic, like algebra, sort of indices or whatever. And I did 6 papers back to back, sort of cramming it in. And how I blagged to get an A at the end, I don't know.
Wow.
But that's how I managed to get through sort of college, just always leaving things to the last minute. Dad used to get cross with me. But because of that, I didn't get grades to get into vet school. And I remember sitting in my tutor's room with my mom, my sister, and my dad, sort of like parents giving you that disappointed look, like, yeah, what are we going to do with this one now? You've got this. We thought you were going to get all A's. And then my teacher suggested Special College to apply and do animal management. And then I applied to a few. I think I applied to Lincoln as well, Harper Adams, and Hartbury. I got 4 offers. The only one I didn't get was Harper Adams, because I think I went for a course. I should have gone for agriculture. I think I went for bioveterinary sciences because I still stuck at being a vet, but then I didn't have the grade, so I didn't get there. And also, I think I probably needed a few thousand acres of land to get in there. But yeah, I didn't get there.
Surely not.
And then Lincoln Uni, I had 2 offers from there, but I'd watched an In-Betweeners episode, and the head teacher there, I can't remember what his name is, he's a comedian now. The head teacher mocked Lincoln Uni, and I was like, I'm not going there. Listening to it being mocked in Betweeners. So those were those 2 dropped. So I had Hartbury and Special left, and knowing about Hartbury now and the way that they're quite big on sports, I wish I went to Hartbury, even though I was going to do animal behavior. So I ended up at Special College doing animal management, and yeah, I really enjoyed the 3 years there. I lived at the campus for 2 years and then lived in Winchester with friends the last year. And yeah, those 3 years I really loved. And I'm glad I did animal management and not agriculture, because I find sort of learning about agriculture now, it would have been too narrow for me.
Yeah.
Whereas doing animal management, I think we learned about obviously all the species, the reptiles, fish, mammals, and there's things now when talking on social media with people or even in real life, I can relate some things from wild animals, elephants, giraffes, evolutionary, to pigs when explaining simple things, and it helps. Whereas I think if I'd only done sheep, pigs, cattle, camels, or whatever, goats, I would have been quite sort of quite tunnel visioned in my thought process. So that's one thing I'm glad I did the animal management degree instead of an agricultural one. And then I remember the last sort of term of doing my degree, I was finishing my dissertation, and we had to do like a personal development folder. And part of that was to apply to the industry you want to go into. And all through the 3 years, I had done all my assignments on pigs.
Had you?
Because, yeah, so the whole thing of having assignments, you just put your number there because it's anonymous. By the time they saw the scientific name of a pig, they knew it was me. So there was no anonymity with my assignments at all. And because I'd done a year's work experience before going to uni to sort of try and earn a bit of money on the farm that I'm on now, I knew I wanted to work with pigs. So I applied for a job at Plumpton College. They called me for an interview, and I thought, okay, I'll just go for the interview. That would be another tick on my personal development folder. On the deadline of dissertation, again, me leaving things late, I'm sat in the library, I get a phone call, and it was someone from Plumpton College saying, we're giving you the job. And I was like, I've still got 3 months of uni to do. So I said, let me quickly ask my teacher. So I ran to the staff room, told my my tutor then, Kerry, saying, I've got a job, what do I do? She was like, go. So I finished my dissertation. I told Plumpton I wanted a month of student living first before I started. So I had a month of enjoying myself, and then April the 5th, 2014, moved into a 3-bed sort of house on the farm, empty. I remember calling home, you say hello and you hear 4 hellos in the background. I think I only had like a single bed in there, mattress, as that was at my dining table, my sofa and bed as well. Yeah, and I remember that was like my first experience of actually working, having a job with a salary, etc. And yeah, I've not looked back since.
Excellent! Wow, what a story, Max.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Flav. So Flav, so it was also obviously preordained that you're going to go into the pig sector, and although you're a bit of a last minute king, like I definitely am. It sounds like there's a plan here. Can you share us where do you want to that horrible question, where do you want to be 10-20 years out within the pig sector, if it is going to be the pig sector? Have you got this notion as to where you want to be, where you're heading, where you're going?
Yeah, so I'd say, yeah, I definitely won't leave at the pig sector again, because I left it in 2017 because I was working at Plumpton. I'd got to the stage where I knew my job, I could do it. So even at 50%, I could do it. I wanted more sort of responsibility. I wanted to do a bit of teaching. I did a few lessons helping Mark when he wasn't in. I wanted to sort of try a few more things in the unit. And unfortunately, the person I was working under then, whether he felt threatened, whether, I don't know, he didn't want to see progress or whatever, he just was quite suppressive. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go somewhere else and learn. And if this job comes up again, like the managerial job, I'll come back for it. And yeah, so I left and worked in the feed industry for a company called Duffields in Kent. Yeah. So again, I moved to Kent. I didn't know anyone in Kent. I unfortunately ended up living in Ramsgate, which, apologies to anyone that lives in Ramsgate now, but honestly, it's definitely, I've got no.
So Flav, can I give you my Ramsgate joke? So Ramsgate 5 years ago had an earthquake, and it did £5 million worth of improvements. That's all of us. That's all of us ostracized from Ramsgate.
It wasn't enough, and I think of all the places I've lived, 3 years in Winchester, lived in Surrey, and my parents still live there now. I'm only half an hour away from them. Lived here for a year and a half, and then I've come back now. Ramsgate is the only place I've got no good memories of, no fondness. I didn't even have a pub that I liked. Actually, the only place I liked in Ramsgate was, there was a gym that I found that I really liked, and there's a fish and chip shop near the flat I lived at, which was really, they used to do deep fried ribs, which were just amazing.
But Flav, hold on, just to pick up on that point, don't you find that the people who've had a bit of adversity in their lives, whether it be with rubbish bosses or whether it be in areas that they haven't particularly liked, it's actually made them better? Has that made you better by having that experience with that manager that you perhaps didn't gel with, and perhaps not loving Ramsgate as like the people that live in Ramsgate love it?
Yes, I would say also it sort of teaches you, whether consciously or subconsciously, not to treat people in that way. So I did end up going back to Plumpton and getting the manager job after 2 interviews. And I had a lad called Jesse working with me. I never used to say I'm his manager or he worked under me. We were colleagues everywhere we went until we came to making a decision, or on paper. I never liked saying, oh, I'm the manager. Well, the only other place I've got that is on my email sign off, like at the bottom, Flavian, whatever. But that's more a formality rather than that's how I carry myself. And I think, like you say, going through these bad experiences or character building, as my dad would call it, it definitely toughens you up. Because I remember, to say, being on my own in a town I didn't know anyone. My get out was the weekends. I'd go back to Sussex and play rugby with the team I played for as well, Plumpton. So I'd leave work at 5. I'd be up in Sussex by about 7 o'clock, stay with my friend Charlie. And then we'd have like a Friday evenings, we'd always cook together. So it's 3 of us, we'd always get some food, cook, and then Saturday play rugby, drink in the evening. Then Sunday I'd stay in Sussex as long as I could, and then probably drive back 7, 8 o'clock in the night. Work was enjoyable as well because there's some decent people at the company I worked at. So the bit where I was on my own is when I hated. So evenings, and at the time I was doing a master's as well, which I put on hold at the moment. So coming up to exams, I would start work at 8:30, finish at 5, sometimes get to the gym or rugby training, get back, cook, wind down a bit till about 9 o'clock or 10, start studying till about 2 in the morning, and then sleep and then start again. So whether that was a coping mechanism or what, but I just used to hate being in that town. And luckily I found an annex in Canterbury for the last 6 months I was in Kent. And those 6 months are the memory that I hold of Kent. Because it's a lovely couple. They had an annex, which was, I think it was a pool house, because the swimming pool was a step away from my annex. I did a video in 2018 during the World Cup. We had the telly right by the pool, and I could jump from the annex into the pool. Those 6 months are amazing. But other than that,
Flav, I've just had someone message me in who says, I've lived in Ramsgate all my life. It hasn't improved.
I think we've been a bit sidetracked, Flavs, and tell us about your plans, because I know there are some plans.
Plans, yeah. So plans, we'll start with sort of like next 6 months, year, and then work away. So Nikki and I are planning or in the process of starting a charcuterie business. So making cured meats using cull sows. Because at the moment in the industry, the cull sows are sold to Europe at cheap prices. I think at the moment is probably at 43p a kilo, and they make them into cured meats, and we buy it back at an expensive price. Like you've never seen charcuterie being sold for 10-20 pound a kilo. So I don't understand why that is, but it happens, and I want to try and change that as small as I can. There are companies out there already doing it, but I think the more people that do it, the less we'll have to send these animals out of the country to then buy back the product. So that's the short-term plan. And then off the back of that, not hoping, that will go well, because I've got so much belief in it. I think it's the first thing in my life where I've decided I'll go two-footed in it. If it goes left, I'll have learned something, but I'm going to definitely put everything into this. And then, so after that, I'd want to replicate that in Kenya, because there's a company called Farmer's Choice who sort of have the biggest share of market in Kenya for sausages and pork product. And this is only my opinion, and I'm sure a lot of Kenyans will disagree with me until they try the sausages from our farm shop. Everyone thinks Farmer's Choice sausages are the best. And even when I was in Kenya, I used to think they were the best. We came here and I'd struggled to sort of find a sausage that was similar. But now that I've sort of been in the industry a decent amount of time, try different sausages, and I know what goes into a good sausage, I'd compare Farmer's Choice's best sausage to a Richmond sausage.
Really?
But if you look in Kenya, people don't have any other options. That's what they've got. And even in June when we were walking through the supermarket with Nikki, and we just stare straight to the sausage and charcuterie aisle, just looking at what the competition would be. And like, it's just not there. And I almost feel sorry for the Kenyan public for not being exposed to better products. So that's something I said when we left. I said to Nikki that we are going to come back and we're going to compete with Farmer's Choice. So that's the next bit after setting up the business here.
I'll share some of my South African boerewors and droewors recipes with you, Flavs, and I'll take a small percentage. So, but I think what's happening, Max. we're supposed to talk about diversity, and I called Flav on Monday evening, as he mentioned. As what I would like to say, as one star were rising at Plumpton, another were fading, but in the fading star maybe never hasn't got up there. But so I was chatting to Flav on Monday evening, and we just ended up talking about the Springbok New Zealand test, and never actually talked too much about the prep for this. But let's talk a bit about diversity and that whole area of so what have you seen? Good practices, bad practices, and actually, in essence, why is diversity good for business? So there's a great buzzword, but what's the actual benefits?
I would say that every time I see the term diversity now, I almost try and not to roll my eyes, because I know I'd say more than 50% of the time it's just put in there for the sake of putting in there. And the other 50%, it's not focusing on people. It's focusing on like your crops, your style of your business. So whether you've got sheep, pigs, or whatever. So diversity of people in agriculture is only picked up momentum in the last year or two. And when you look at the momentum it's picked up on social media, or even in literature like magazines, compared to what's actually happening on the ground, I don't think it matches. And it's that whole thing. Like, I remember doing a podcast with Will Evans, and I said, let's dither more do on there. And he titled the thing that, and I think there's so much dithering when it comes to diversity in agriculture, in the sense of you suggest something to, let's say, a magazine or a company or even a social media platform, and you get, oh, I'm going to pass it on to people above, and then we'll see what happens. And you think, what's there to pass on? All someone is asking is just vary your posts, i.e. whether you're going to vary them in today you post about pigs, tomorrow sheep, tomorrow whatever, or even like on something like Farm 24, which this year improved. But I remember there was one year where, it was 2020 when the BLM movement started. And I remember on Farm 24, I messaged someone at Farmers Guardian saying, today will be a day to put someone on your page that's not your typical farmer, that's not white, anyone. It doesn't have to be me. And I never like saying, oh, put me, because I think I've got my own page and I can put my face on there as much as I want. But on these other pages, it's about seeing more than just me, just other people. And you get the reply, oh, I would speak to the editor and see. I'm like,
no,
what's there to talk about? Yes,
get out of town.
What's there to talk about? And I think going from 2020, 2021, and now, it's slowly improving, but the pace is just so slow. Even with diversity, with ladies in the industry or even in society, you'd see a company would put a post even on LinkedIn saying, oh, we've improved this and we've got ladies now, and they get congratulated. And you think, why are they getting congratulated on doing something so basic? It's like someone congratulating someone for breathing. It's like, you should be doing that anyway. Yeah. So if yes, it's something that's a buzzword now, but just because people are slowly doing it, there shouldn't be congratulations saying, oh, now you've got a gay person in the company, or you've got a black person in the company. You should have had that 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And from what Isaac is saying on a business side, is that people from diverse backgrounds have different ways of doing things. And even as a Kenyan, in Kenya, with the 44 tribes that are there, mom's from Kikuyu tribe, dad's from a Luo tribe, and both Kenyans, but they do things differently. So you've got one country with 44 different ways of doing things. And even, let's say, in England, you've got, there's ways, let's say, people up north to do something compared to south. And even in the south, you've got southeast, southwest, you've got Midlands. So even amongst that, there's diversity. But it's just that sort of the gender diversity, the sexuality diversity, the racial diversity, that's dragging a bit. And I just think there isn't much to talk about. We just need to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
How do we change that, Flavs? And how, you've challenged us before, and rightly so. So how do we change that? What can we do to help improve that?
I would say by consciously choosing to do these actions rather than things being afterthoughts. Like, okay, we've got a panel here, and I've seen on Twitter sometimes you get a panel gets put out. Oh, we've got this talk with XYZ, and then it's an afterthought like, oh, we haven't got a man on there, or we haven't got a woman on there, or we haven't got an Asian guy on there. It should be second nature. And I think you say how to do it. From a farming perspective, we need to reach out to those communities that are lacking in agriculture to get them in, because as, let's say, as a Gaka, as an African, there's no way you're just going to knock on the door on a farm and say, oh, can I come in? Because all you've seen before is farming should be for landowners or for people that live in countryside. And even the countryside itself doesn't really have that many non-white people because it's fairly expensive. You got the access side of things where a lot of people are from developing countries move here to live in the city because they probably moved from the countryside themselves. And so some of them don't drive. So living in a city, you've got trains, you've got buses, but if you're going to live in the countryside in the middle of nowhere and you don't drive, that again is cutting people off. So I'd say it's the onus is on us, like in farming, to go out there and speak to people from these sort of marginalized backgrounds and bringing them in, tell them, look, farming is a career choice. It's not a by the way. I took it as a by the way, and even now, still, you're like, oh, you failed your GCSEs, go farm. Like we've got two lads here. One of them has a few learning difficulties, and it's like, oh, go to agriculture, and you think there's more to agriculture than just shoveling or sweeping, which are jobs I need doing. So if agriculture was to be promoted as a job and farming was to be promoted as a job, not just being a farm manager or an agronomist or working on a farm, looking after pigs, looking after chickens, whatever, if they were to be promoted as jobs in schools for careers weeks, because at school, I never saw someone from the agriculture industry come to our school telling us, oh, there's these jobs. It was all accountants. It was all selling houses or being I don't know, stewardess on an airline. It was all those basic jobs that everyone wants. Yeah. But farming is a very rewarding job that people are missing out on.
And guys, I think just going to say, I think that the agriculture sector is 10 years behind some other industry sectors. I always think of the likes of, say, the engineering industry in the UK. Every year they have a great careers day, which makes it into the mainstream press, the BBC, the ITV, and they'll have the young guy and the young girl working for the likes of Rolls-Royce with a yellow hat on, saying how well they're enjoying the engineering sector. And the engineering sector is also incredibly diverse across the whole remit. You then look at agriculture, and we are backwards, probably the wrong word. I think we're probably playing catch up. I won't nominate the university I was at yesterday, but they showed me some old files that showed in 1968, it's only 50 odd years ago, they weren't allowed to allow women into the university to learn about agriculture because it just wasn't allowed. So that's not that long ago, and we're still playing catch up on that. But Flav, that's why we need positive disruptors like yourself to be noisy, to wind up, rightly so, the likes of the Farmer's Guardian, to say, and I completely get about what you say about about some of the boards, some of the speaking slots, because it's just the male, grey and stale type brigade. When actually mixing it up with young and old and of different backgrounds and sexuality, whatever, it would just add more to it. Isaac, would you agree with me, or do you think I'm shouting into my wood solo as normal?
No, I definitely agree, and I think, you know, what maybe the step back that we need to take is to kind of think, you know, because all of us, consciously or subconsciously, whenever decision we do or make, is that thing of, you know, what's in it for me, because that's the reality, and we just, you know, historically and genetically programmed to think about what's in it for me. And I think that's a big part of what we can do, is to shout about. And if you've got a diverse business, that those things that Flav talked about, so the different ways of doing it, the different ways of seeing things, connecting with customers in different ways. And I think that's what we need to shout about. So it's not just a buzzword about some diversity. It's actually, listen, if you are more diverse as a business, here's what's the benefits are for you. And I think that's something that so we should convey, and that's the how we get the message across. It's not just about this, some of it is because it's the right thing to do, but it, like I say, inherently people have got that thing, what's in it for me, and there is big benefits for being diverse. I don't know, what do you think, Flav?
Yeah, I agree with you there, Isaac. And also, just as you're talking, I was thinking, like, this country loves sport. We love football. We love rugby, volleyball, many other sports. If you look at a rugby team, 1 to 15, that's diversity right there. Number 1 and number 9 aren't the same size. Number 4 and number 15, well, unless it's the Fijian team. Number 4 and 15 are different sizes. Look at a football team. The keeper and a midfielder, different. Yeah, so we live in a society with diversity already, and it doesn't have to be the whole like the thing. I would sometimes feel sorry for white men, because that phrase, it rhymes, like the pale, male and stale. It rhymes, but even just saying it, then it's probably the first time it's ever come out of our mouth. But I always feel like it's almost like the English men or white men in society, they've come into something that already exists. So I think I find it a bit harsh when we say pale, male and stale. It's a bit harsh just targeting that group of people. That said, about 7 times out of 10, when you see a discussion about increasing women in a sector, increasing non-white people in a sector, increasing non-straight people in a sector, it's always the white men that chirp up. So I feel bad that it's a phrase that's always used, but also I'm like,
Flav, you just killed your microphone. Well done. Guys, can I just give you another example? Because don't worry, Flav. I think we are seeing the societal change. We had a call with a very large fresh produce business that is in the UK, is in West Africa, and is also in East Africa, Kenya. And we had a call with the CEO, because they are now on a D&I drive, diversity and inclusivity drive, that they, for mid-management, senior level positions, they're really, really keen to have a diversified board. And that's the first time we've seen that on a recruitment perspective, that a company's actually come to us to state, yeah, we want to create change. Whilst if you go back to my engineering example, they've already had that in place in 10 years. But then I was debating whether I was going to mention this, but likewise, I've got other agricultural businesses that when they have a vacancy coming up, they are adamant that they won't have any women within their business, because their view is that women become pregnant and that causes them an issue. And I don't even want to go anywhere near about other ethnic races on the back of that. And we've refused to deal with them on that basis. So you just got this oxymoron within the whole fresh produce, fresh food agricultural sector. You've got businesses who are now looking to drive that D&I methodology, but they're 10 years too late, but at least they're doing something. Then you've got these other archaic businesses who don't want to employ women. So yeah, I think we've got to be positive. There is change going to happen if we can persuade companies that when they're looking to recruit, whether that be students to mid-management to board level, to look at it on a diversified basis, and likewise to push their suppliers and even their customers on a similar basis. If we could create that societal change by having this type of conversation, Isaac, Flav, that's going to be good. Do you think, Isaac?
I definitely think, and I think something that we definitely need to talk about, and Flav has mentioned, is social media. I mean, it's such a powerful tool, sometimes for the negative, but it can be used to such a positive effect as well. And Flav, you are now, I think, almost officially, or maybe it's officially called an influencer. So, so talk us about, we had this conversation on Monday night. What do you do on social media? So, some tips on that, and how do you engage? So how do you keep it positive? And so, what can and should we be doing on social media?
So I really hope that I don't get referred to as that, because I hate that phrase so much. I despise that phrase so much. But I would say, I think social media probably up until, when was it? Probably up until 2019, 2020, I just had it for social, just to speak with friends, connect with my friends back in Kenya. And then I think after the BLM movement, and I think I remember doing an article with Farmers Weekly, and I remember the backlash I got off that on Facebook in the comment section. Surprise, surprise. I thought, actually, I think I should start sort of being more open about talk about these topics, what I do as a farmer as well, and just show it on there. And I think I still had my name on there, and then obviously start seeing people that are like the sausage shopper there, such and such. And I thought, actually, if I put the Kenyan pig farmer, should that be easy for people to find me? Because you say to someone, oh, it's Flavian this. Oh, how do you spell that? But the Kenyan pig farmer, it's pretty straightforward. And yeah, off the back of that, it's just gone on and on. And then I found sort of having the interactions with people. So people asking, oh, why does a pig do this? And some questions where I probably would never have to, or these people would have never had the opportunity to see those things because they don't live on a farm or they are close to it. Some people even from South Africa. Like I've got a lad from South Africa that's messaged me a few times saying, oh, look at my pig. It looks sick. What does it have? And I sort of tell him, oh, go to this website and read this, and helping each other out like that. There's Kenyans on there now, Americans, Canadians, we talk. And you just think, I'm here in Hampshire and I've got all these people in the world that sort of sharing knowledge. I see what they're doing and they see what I'm doing. It's such a powerful tool like that. And then on things like Farm 24, or even other thing with FaceTime a Farmer, where during lockdown, people couldn't visit some of these farms that they would have visited normally. Farmers are sort of uploading on their social media, showing kids what happens on farms. I think with what's going on in the industry, especially the pig industry, the supply chain, unfairness, etc., the more people see what goes on behind the scenes before the pork chop gets on your table, the more people understand that, oh, actually, I shouldn't be paying, I don't know, $1.95 for that kilo of pork instead of the $2.40 it costs to produce it. And yeah, so off the back of that, I've just pushed it. And then looking at social media, it's free. And I thought there's no one out there that can sort of say what I do or show people what I do more than myself. So I've just taken that opportunity and thought, okay, all these platforms are there. I'll just jump on them and use them and get my name out there. And like I said, from 2020, it's worked all right so far. And for me,
sorry, Flav.
Yeah,
go on, Flav.
So I was going to say that for me, it's more. The main drives for me are getting the British public to understand about farming in general, not just pigs, just farming in general, and what the work that goes behind getting the food on their table, and also from a diversity perspective, if someone's living in Somerset, let's say a young black family or Asian or a non-white family living in a countryside somewhere, thinking it's just them, but then they see me on social media and think, oh, actually, he's a guy that looks like me, or he's someone that's not white doing that job. Maybe I could be that. Even kids in London that see black teachers, black police officers, etc., but they don't see black farmers. Like I saw at the black farmer Wilfred, before I came to this farm in 2010, I typed up on Google black farmers in the UK and he came up. And since that day, I'll never forget, I looked at his picture and I was like, if he can do it, why can't I? And I'm still here doing it. But the one thing with social media that I struggle with still is how sort of some people channel or have the thing about fame as a motive rather than the other bits, which, like for me, I always say, if social media was to be shut off tomorrow, I wouldn't flinch, because I'll be like, I grew up, I didn't have a computer at home till I came to England when I was 15. We didn't have a telly until 1996, and I was born in 91. So I can live without all these things, but I use it to show people what's going on. Whereas there's a minute number of people that don't focus or keep the focus of teaching people, whatever, and just go down the fame side. And I think when it goes down that road is when you get the negativity, the false pretenses online of like farming, for example, constantly showing cute piglets, cute lambs, and it's like, but there's more to it than that. There's days where you spilt food, like when I had the Farmers of the UK page, and like a ton of food spilt on the floor. A lot of people won't show that because they just want to show the perfect side, which gives the consumer or the public a false idea of farming. You have dead animals. You have days when you tip trailers, like I have a few. You have days when you reverse into things. So my idea is you got to show all of it and explain it rather than just putting a picture of a dead animal and not explaining it. People get upset. But give a warning, talk about the whole aspect so we can have the public on the journey with us. Otherwise, if they only understand half of it, then they could easily start making sort of conclusions. But if they know the whole picture, then they go to the supermarket or hopefully a farm shop and make a conscious decision saying, I'm going to spend X amount on this because I know X.
Yeah. On Monday, when you were having a briefing with Isaac, I was with a bunch of mates in a pub, and we were talking about you, Flav, and I just asked them because they all follow you. They're all sort of farming related, and I said, well, what's the one word that you know, Flav? You know the Kenyan pig farmer. What's the one word that comes up when you think of Flav? And the answer was authentic. And I think that's the obvious difference between influencers doing the thing over there with Love Island and tanning products that Isaac and I try not to buy, but and yourself is that you're authentic. So you're showing the good, the bad, and the ugly. And again, I just love that example of if there was a black kid in London and he sees an inspiring individual as a policeman, as a rugby player, as a farmer. They're going to be positively influenced to potentially go that way. And just on that side, are you happy, just thinking of the people that are dialed into listening to this, are you happy to sit on a panel, go on broadcasts, go on podcasts? Obviously time dependent, but are you happy to continue to go down this route within UK agriculture to further promote diversity?
All day long. Like, wow. Since when I did that article, I remember a lad called Ollie Hill, and I think I'd say this, I don't know what word to use, this spike of me getting involved more to do different things other than farming. I'd thank him actually, because I'd entered the fittest farmer competition by Farmers Weekly, and he contacted me and said, "Oh, do you want to talk about this Black Lives Matter thing?" I was like, "Yeah." He came to Plumpton, we did an interview, and he did I think it was like double spread in Farmers Weekly. And I remember a lot of positives. I'd say in farming, easily 95% of the industry are willing to, they're welcoming, willing to teach, willing to learn, willing to make mistakes and learn from them. But there's a small 5% or less, which is statistically insignificant, that are always going to make everyone else look bad. And they're the ones that were chatting up in the comments. And I screenshotted every single one of those negative comments. I've got an album of them on my phone. Wow. And I look at them as motivation sometimes. And I've always said that brilliant. And probably till I die or leave, well, I won't leave the industry. So until I die, I will always chirp up about it, always. And so long as I'm not offending someone and I'm not sort of saying something that's out of turn, I'll say it on any platform, wherever. And I'm quite lucky that my current bosses at the Janoways, they're very supportive of me, because where it's a family farm, you don't really have that corporateness. Like when I was at Plumpton, we couldn't have said some things because the college will look bad. So even in that sentence there, even though you're saying you're doing something good, but because it doesn't align with promoting the college or making it look in a good way, in quotes, you get sort of told off for it. Like I remember the summer of 2020, I uploaded a picture of a sow that had died of heat stress, which is the first thing that ever happened to me. I was quite distressed by it. So I wanted to tell people that this thing's happened. And I almost got a disciplinary for it because one person complained to college saying we saw a dead animal, we don't like it. And I'm like, but that's one person out of how many?
Yeah.
That's a reality. So I love the fact that I work for a family or a farming family that's really supportive and are keen to sort of see me push messages out there or sort of show people what happens in farming. And yeah, so like, to answer your question, anywhere, so long as I'm not offending anyone or stepping on anyone's toes, I'll keep pushing this until I see change, significant change as well, not just this.
One of the other benefits of social media is that, you know, the lad that Flav mentioned from South Africa, he came over to see Flavian, and I met him at the Pig and Poultry Fair. Flav brought him off, and I got a chance to speak Isiclosa at in Kenilworth at the Pig and Poultry Fair. I mean, how surreal is that?
And guys, just on that, let's just call it for what it is, that abuse online. There's been enough incidences of MPs who obviously get a huge amount of abuse. They've actually confronted those people. They've invited them to the House of the Parliament. They've given them a trip round. They've then sat down with them. They found that they're actually generally nice people, but when they got a keyboard and then a confines of their own home, they're just it's like a Jekyll and Hyde character. And I don't know, Flav, it feels like some people just have a hobby of sitting at their computer and being nasty to people as some sort of release for the issues that they've got in their own life.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's because I'm thick-skinned, or maybe because I've had such an upbringing where I know no matter what happens now to me or I get comments online, I know my mum, my dad, my sister, and Nikki will always be there for me, and a lot of friends around me. So I just see those things as words. Sometimes, yes, some I stick in my head and I've sort of talked to people about it. But I think at the point you made there about MPs invite people to Parliament and talking to them, I've had incidences where I've spoken to people that fully disagree with me completely, but then I feel that I learn more about them or more about a side of sort of a way of thinking that I've never had. And I also hope that after talking to them, you have changed them, but even if it's not 1%, but at least it's working towards the better rather than the worse. And I think even if it's like a leader of, I don't know, these parties, what is it? The one that used to be around, is it BNP or whatever?
Yeah.
I'd happily sit with one of them and have a chat, because half the times their arguments just don't make any sense. Literally don't make any sense. But it's just that thing of, for, I'd say, like English natives, don't be scared of making mistakes. If you're talking to someone from a different ethnicity and you don't know much about it, just ask the question.
Yep.
If you say something wrong, ask people from these ethnic groups shouldn't come down your throat. We should sort of understand that you might be ignorant or you don't know or lack of exposure, and we explain to you. So it works both ways, I think. We should be ready to teach and people should be ready to learn.
Yeah, I think we need to be like Flav, Isaac. We need to be authentic and we need to be relentless. And talking about relentless, we've got our colleague Mark from the AHDB, who's on holiday this week, but he was desperate to get a question over to you, Flav. So I'm just going to dial up his little video. So just bear with me.
Oh, look at him.
Hold on, Mark. Oh, so right, here we go. Question from Mark on holiday.
One question I got for Flavian today. With the world and the connectivity that we live in, which people are more and more connected than we've ever been, and aware of probably different cultures, genders, diversities, and that. How can we utilise the world that we live in to become more diverse in agriculture? Have a good day. I'm going to.
So everyone, that was Mark from Bognoritas. Who I'm sure he'll be very, very proud to have got segued in there. Flav, what's your thoughts? What's your comments on the back of his question about diversity?
I would say I'd go straight to an example of when we signed a trade deal with Australia and New Zealand, and so the backlash of that from farmers, etc., and seeing even things like sort of some false comparisons being made, things that weren't 100% accurate. I think it's understanding that as much as I'd say back British farming or buy into British to the hill, I'm a British farmer now. But when I go back to Kenya, I'll have to back Kenyan farmers. And it's that thing of understanding that what you do could be to the best of your ability and it suits you. What an Australian, what a Kiwi, what an American, what a South American does suits them. So some things we might disagree with, but if it works for someone else, let them do it. Because I think the way other people farm, we could easily learn from how other people farm, regardless how different it is to us. So I think that would be a definite starting point there of not just assuming that you're the best, because you're the best according to who? It's the whole thing of if you don't travel, you think your mom's the best cook. Because if you think you're the best, then you go out there and compare against others. You could be number 3, number 4, number 5. So that I think even boils down to respect. Even when you look at athletes like your Usain Bolts, your Andre Pollards, your Vermeulens, your Rich Moimers, or whatever. They're good at what they do, but they still respect an opponent when they come up against each other. That's why they prepare to the highest level, because you don't just stand up and say, well, I'm the best anyway, so whoever comes, I'm going to beat them. So for what Michael's saying to work, respect has to be there in that no matter what background someone is from, if they're doing something, trust and respect that whatever they're doing suits them and it's a way that they do it. So you either learn something from it or just respect it and leave it. And the beauty of social media is that I don't have to be in Senegal to see what Senegalese goat farmers are doing. I don't have to be in Botswana to see how other beef farmers are doing. Like there's a girl who's a beef farmer in Botswana that sort of chat to us, what's your beef price doing there? And I've never been to Botswana. She's never been to Hampshire or met me in person, but we learn from each other in that sense. So I guess from respect, it will lead on to being open-minded as well. Because if you're closed-minded, you're only just going to know what you know. And I think that's why I like hanging around with people that aren't necessarily pig farmers.
Yeah.
And I think playing rugby, like at Plumpton, in our team, we had builders, we had doctors, we had sort of teachers, people that worked in vineyards, which came in handy in the summer because you get to go to wine tastings, but you get such different perspectives. Or even when we went to AHDB at the Talking Leaders Conference, some of the speakers on there will probably never set foot on a farm, but the way they tell you how they do their things at the Olympian, we had talking there. When they tell you how they do their things or how they've overcome adversity or troubles, in your head you're thinking, well, actually, that day when the pigs got out, or that day when I was trying to reverse that corner, whatever, if I apply what they've just said there, it'll work. So yeah, I'd say respect and open-mindedness will be key to making social media help with improving diversity.
Flat, but well done. We're running out of time. We're running out of 50p's for the meet and Kenyan shillings. So we better wrap up. But the 3 words I've learned from you are authentic, relentless, and respect. Isaac, wrap up for us, please.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Flavian, especially for mentioning those very good Springbok rugby players there. I know, Flav, I won't be served any Harveys or any other more mediocre beers anywhere in Sussex if we don't mention no backward step, from the mighty Plums. So just a big thanks, Flav, for talking about this thing, making us sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable, because that's the only way we grow, is by being challenged on what we think. So very big thanks for your openness. I know within Plumpton, at the rugby club, we've learned a lot, and here today again. So thank you very much.
And Flav, could you just tell us how we can find you on social media, please?
If you type in Kenyan Pig Farmer, I should come up. I think Twitter is Kenyan Pig Farmer, Instagram is the Kenyan Pig Farmer, LinkedIn, Flavian Obiero, YouTube, the Kenyan Pig Farmer, TikTok, the Kenyan Pig Farmer. Don't go on Facebook because I don't really use that.
Okay. And I've just had a WhatsApp from an individual who claims he's a district councillor at Ramsgate, and they've got an honorary position of mayor of Ramsgate coming up. Could they put you forward as honorary mayor of Ramsgate?
Well, they can't, but I don't think the people will vote for me from the way I was getting looked at on the streets.
Yeah, but again, it's all about having the conversation. It's all about having the conversation.
Yeah. Go for it. Chuck my name in there.
Excellent. Flav, well done. You've been utterly brilliant. We love this series with the AHDB talking leaders. We meet some such inspirational people. Don't realize it. Case in point with Flav. We look forward to September's outing.
Yeah, and just type in AgriLeader, AHDB AgriLeader into Google, and find myself, find Mark, look at everything we do, and come and talk to us and see what we can support you with. So thank you very much.
And Flav is one to watch. You could just see, Isaac, can't you, that he's only halfway through his book. You could just see there's more. So we've got to see where this all ends up. It's going to be fascinating. Gentlemen, well done. Keep safe, and we'll see you at the next.